Members of the House of Representatives today introduced a resolution expressing no confidence in Attorney General Alberto Gonzales and urging President Bush to fire him. A Senate no-confidence vote is expected later this week. But in the fourth story on our countdown tonight, neither this historic rejection of the nation's top lawman, nor a top Republican's prediction Gonzales will resign, nor still more revelations about Gonzales moved President Bush today to the conclusion that justice demands America have confidence in the man sworn to pursue justice.
You asked about Alberto Gonzales. He has got my confidence. He has done nothing wrong. There's been enormous amount of attention on him, that there's been no wrongdoing on his part. He has testified in front of Congress, and I frankly view what's taking place in Washington today as pure political theater. And it is this kind of political theater that has caused the American people to lose confidence in how Washington operates. I stand by Al Gonzales, and I would hope that people would be more sober in how they address these important issues.
In fact, polls have shown support for congressional oversight of Gonzales, and the question of wrongdoing is far from settled. U.S. News and World Report reporting that Democrats will ask the Texas Bar Association to determine whether Gonzales, in 2004, when he was White House counsel, violated the law or professional rules of conduct by discussing secret wiretapping in front of then Attorney General John Ashcroft's wife. And Senator Chuck Schumer has sent the White House a letter asking who exactly sent Gonzales to Ashcroft's hospital room in that late-night quest for someone to approve the wiretaps, after acting AG Jim Comey refused to do so. Mr. Bush today still not saying whether it was him, although Schumer's letter marks the third time the president has been asked directly. And Newsweek today reporting that the White House, the day after the midnight ride of Alberto Gonzales, claimed its top officials did not know who was running the Justice Department, despite a fax receipt proving DOJ notified them about Comey, and despite the fact a DOJ spokesman had announced Comey's temporary status days before in public. Then there is Monica Goodling, set to testify Wednesday about her role as DOJ's White House liaison, and quite possibly about the fired U.S. attorneys, with Justice releasing still more of her emails tonight. We're going to bring in Rachel Maddow, who stays on top of this story on her Air America radio program every weeknight. Rachel, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Monica. Thanks.
So first, let me get your take on the punctuation to the unbelievable hospital visit that we're now hearing about thanks to Mr. Comey. Is it really possible that the White House counsel and chief of staff would not know who was running justice, or is it perhaps that they just did not recall?
Well, that's actually, I mean, which explanation is better? That they didn't know, that they missed the announcement, or that they didn't care and that they were trying to ram this through a semi-incoherent, half-dead John Ashcroft in an intensive care unit because they knew the program couldn't get past any sentient being. I mean, either way, it's not a good situation. And I think what you mentioned there about what U.S. News and World Report is reporting today about the Texas Bar Association is very important. It's possible that that entire midnight ride, that entire incident in the intensive care unit was actually illegal in a pretty significant way. There's very serious restrictions on when and where classified information can be discussed. In front of John Ashcroft's wife in an unsecured hospital room is not one of those places. So that may end up being a very, very serious matter. What happened that night?
Let's talk about why does the fact that we're talking about justice make this week's no confidence votes more important than, say, for some other cabinet agency?
Well, you know, the Department of Justice is not just any agency. This is not a historical landmarks commission. These are the folks who are in charge of law. These are the folks who are in charge, supposedly, of terrorism prosecution, civil rights, crime, the FBI, public corruption, of course. And if you're talking about justice being led by someone whose credibility, whose judgment, whose political independence is now a national punchline, that is something that's more important than your average Washington scandal for a country that supposedly is run on the rule of law. This is perhaps the most important government agency other than the Department of Defense and the executive itself. And if it's led by somebody who really has become a national joke, that's a real problem for the country. This is not like going after Karl Rove. This is going after the Attorney General, and it's very serious.
Mr. Bush says there is no wrongdoing here. How long do you think he'll continue to say that, and how would you refute that assertion? assertion?
Well, the reason that George W. Bush has been saying that it is not there hasn't been any wrongdoing is he's been asserting his right to fire those U.S. attorneys, his right to fire those federal prosecutors, completely missing the point that this isn't a scandal because it's a personnel matter. This isn't a scandal because people were fired improperly. This is a scandal because what we learned about the Justice Department, because of those U.S. attorneys being fired, is that the Republican Party and the Bush administration were essentially trying to hijack the Justice Department for the purposes of benefiting the Republican Party in the same way that Tony Soprano's gang would take over a waste management company and use it to further their own aims. They were hijacking this department, and it's not about one attorney here or there. It's what we learned about their overall aims for that department because of those firings. If you look at the prosecutions that the Gonzales Justice Department, that the Justice Department under George W. Bush has brought against people who are elected officials or candidates for office, 80% of their prosecutions have been against Democrats. 80%. That's a problem that's not about one U.S. attorney here or there. That's the Justice Department being hijacked for partisan aims, and that's a constitutional crisis.
Rachel, are Democrats naive in thinking that symbolic votes will sway the president, or are they pursuing a scenario that might not be immediately apparent to us?
Well, I wish I knew. I wish I had great faith that the Democrats had a perfect political arc in mind here about how this ends up. I think the best way to look at this, the most generous way to look at this, is to say that the Democrats are shy around the issue of impeachment. They're shy around that issue with the Vice President and the President, but also with the Attorney General. They may be trying to make impeachment look inevitable, like they were forced into it, rather than make it look like they were going to that as a first recourse.
Rachel Maddow, host of The Rachel Maddow Show on Air America. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Monica.